Advent greetings to you from First Congregational United Church of Christ here in Asheville, North Carolina. Welcome to another of our Advent devotions where we share messages from members and friends of this congregation that are important to individuals as they reflect on the season. Today, we'll be joining with Frank and Chris as they sit in front of their hearth. Let us listen to their message.
Good morning. I'm Chris Cain.
And I'm Frank Freeman.
Thank you for allowing us to give our Advent reflection. And when we wrote this, we really struggled with what we were going to talk about. But what we decided on was becoming who we already are. Advent is a season of waiting. Not the rushed, impatient kind of what I typically do, but the kind that asks us to slow down, to pay attention, and to hope. We wait for light in the darkness. We wait for love to break in. We wait for the reminder that God is already present, even when we are still becoming.
Advent reminds us that transformation doesn't happen all at once. It happens quietly, gradually, often in places we don't expect. And sometimes, especially often unexpectedly, it happens in the very parts of ourselves we once wished away.
When I think back to middle school and high school, I remember spending a lot of energy trying to figure out how to fit, trying not to get bullied or made fun of, trying to soften parts of myself, trying to hide others, trying to be just enough, but not too much. There were things about me that drew attention that I didn't ask for. Things that made me stand out. Things I was teased for. And if I'm honest, things I learned to keep quiet.
I too share that experience. There were parts of who I was, how I thought, how I expressed myself, and how I cared deeply about that didn't always match what the world around me seemed to value. So like a lot of people, I learned to adapt, to blend, to just survive. But what's striking, looking back now, is that many of the very things we're bullied for then are the things people admire most about us now.
The sensitivity, the creativity, the deep care for justice and people, and the willingness to speak honestly. The refusal to pretend we're something we weren't, even when it was hard. Those traits didn't disappear. They waited.
They waited for space. They waited for safety. They waited for love to say, you don't need to change to belong. And that feels deeply connected to Advent.
Advent is about God choosing to arrive with no power or polished, but in vulnerability, in a body, in a story that didn't fit expectations. God didn't wait for the world to be ready. God entered the world as it was.
And in doing so, God affirms something profound, that who we are fully and honestly is not a barrier to love. It is the very place where love showed up. Advent tells us that becoming our true selves is holy work.
Even now as adults and as parents, we're still practicing this every day, still learning how to live authentically, still unlearning the messages that told us to shrink or to conform. And we care deeply about modeling a different message for our daughters and eventually grandchildren.
We want them to know that they don't have to earn love by fitting a mold, that the parts of themselves that feel awkward or misunderstood today may one day be their greatest gifts. And that even if the world is slow to see it, God already does.
So this Advent, we want to offer an invitation, not just to children or teenagers, but to every single one of us, to consider the parts of yourselves you've learned to hide, the parts you were told were too much or not enough, the parts you might still be willing and waiting to reclaim.
What if Advent is not only about waiting for Christ, but about waiting with compassion for ourselves? What if the light we're waiting for is already present, flickering quietly inside who we truly are?
Advent reminds us that love comes without conditions, that God meets us where we are, not where we think we should be.
You were loved before you were understood. You are loved while you are becoming, and you are loved, not despite who you are, but because of it. May this season of Advent invite us to be gentle with ourselves, to honor our stories, and to trust that God, who came into the world in vulnerability, is still calling each of us, exactly as we are, home.
Thank you, Chris and Frank. Thank you for making me think. Thank you for that reminder of being accepted. Thank you for the reminder of authenticity. But let's go to God in prayer. Loving God, you are one who wants all of us, to live life fully and to live out in our own unique image, no matter what others may think. Help people to find their own way, to know that they are loved and affirmed by you, even if others, may not be so understanding. We ask that you would give us strength to do what is right, but also to have confidence in the vision you would have for each of us as human beings. And then help us to allow others space to find their full, authentic self. Be with us during this season, as we remember that you come in your time, and that in your time when your birth took place, it came as a surprise. It came in an unexpected way and place. And yet, it came fully alive. Help us to reach out and embrace your child. But also, as we embrace your child, and your child responds to us, help us to allow ourselves to be free and alive in you. And so we pray this day, in the name of your Son, Jesus, our Emmanuel. And may God bless you and keep you. May God's face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May God look upon you with kindness and give you peace. Amen.